And there are other videos about the passive separately. I don't think they're all together on one mega video. So I thought it would be a really good idea to talk about that. In terms of which system to use and when, and the fact that sometimes we do have a choice and that other times we don't have a choice. So it's really about sort of getting a feel for it. So it's not one of the areas of grammar where it's like this categorically will be this all the time. There are times when you can use different methods, and we will talk about that in this mega video. It will also be something that will be on the grammar podcasts. So by all means, you know, like I say, if you want an opportunity to practice the stuff that we're talking about in these videos, I will attach the grammar podcasts underneath and you can look into purchasing those, because they really are a way for you to have examples and practice and all of this kind of thing, and just a 4-minute reminder for every little individual piece of grammar. So off we go. So the passive voice as opposed to the active voice, some people don't even think about that when we say that, but to do a verb actively as opposed to passively. So if I said, I was hired, I was fired, okay? Who's doing the hiring? Who's doing the firing? Not me. So I'm using a past participle, I'm using the past of the verb. From, if you said, so who does the firing? Someone else. So you might say, I was fired by John, whatever the boss, or, you know, or John fired me. But in the sentence, John fired me, that is an active sentence. That means the person who you start the sentence with is doing the verb in the middle. So John fired me. I was fired, or I got fired by John, is passive, because the person starting the sentence is an I, or a you, or a he, whatever, and then the person doing the verb is somebody different. So for example, she got arrested, she was arrested. He got elected, he was elected. These are passive constructions. Equally, sometimes the passive will just be, it'll be active to express a passive, and we won't really go into a great deal of information about who it is that's doing it. So for example, oh, they operate. So I had a car crash in the year 2000, and you can see the scar, and they operated on me. Yeah, or, you know, I was operated on. So they operated on me is active because the person starting the sentence, they, is doing the verb operate, so that's active. But there's no real detail other than the word they. We just assume, oh, medical powers that be, do you know what I mean? She was in a car crash, but don't worry, they've managed to stem the bleeding or something like this, you know. So that's almost, it's active, but it's almost passive because it's sort of, there's not really any information about the person that's doing it. So let's talk about the different options of how we're going to do that in French. So the first thing to be aware of is that the option that we will also use in English, in fact we will use this more commonly in English, is to use the verb to be in whichever tense, and then a past from another verb. And this will create an adjective from the past of another verb. So for example, if I said the verb to tire, okay, now in English to tire can be I tire of your antics, it can be the verb to get tired, but it can also be you tire somebody else out. So when you say I was tired, it's someone else tiring you and you're making it your own description. So if I said I was motivated, I'm using the past tense, I'm using a past tense of the verb to motivate, it means someone else motivated me. So in other words, I'm going to use the past tense of one of these verbs. So if I had the verb to motivate, which would be motiver, yeah, M-O-T-I-V-E acute, or if I had interested, or tired, fatigué, F-A-T-I-G-U-E acute, that's I am tired. So in other words, when you come across an ED, I was satisfied, I was tired, I was motivated, I was whatever, that generally suggests that the adjective is taken from another verb. It's taken from someone else's past. So in other words, he interested me. Il m'a intéressé. I-S-S-E acute. I'm interested. Je suis intéressé. Okay? As opposed to interesting, motivating, tiring, intéressant, A-N-T, motivant, M-O-T-I-V-A-N-T, fatigant, F-A-T-I-G-U-A-N-T. So in other words, ed as an option is normally going to involve the verb to be and then the past tense of a verb. So London was bombed during the war. The verb to bomb in French is bombarder, B-O-M-B-A-R-D-E-R. So London was bombed. So if we said the plane bombed London, that would be active. L'avion a bombardé. So we're going to take that adjective and we're going to say London was bombed. Londres était, E acute, T-A-I-T, bombardé, B-O-M-B-A-R-D-E, and now an extra E, because when you take these words from the past and make them into adjectives, they then have to behave themselves like adjectives, which basically means you add an E and an S if they're feminine and plural. Okay? So not all adjective pasts are going to be an E and acute. We're going to see later, you know, she was elected, élu, yeah, élu, E acute, L-U, okay? But it's just what I'm saying is it will be taken from the past of somebody else's verb. So in other words, if you said he elected, you know, somebody to do this, il a élu, I was elected, j'étais élu. Now, this method, let's be aware of two things. Firstly, in English, we do not always use the verb to be, and secondly, we don't always use it in the present tense. So I will be, let me think, fired. Yeah, I was fired, I have been fired, I would have been fired. Okay, you think about it, we're going in all different tenses, so the verb to be needs to be in different tenses. But the word that's the adjective will be the same, okay? But we also use the word get, so be very careful. If you say, I got arrested, I got fired, I got all of this business, okay? Lovely. Next thing. If you've got a situation in English where you're using this, it will not always be the go-to in French. You will use other systems. So one of the ways to be sure is that objects tend to use this method a lot more in French than people. You can use it for some verbs with people, you're going to start seeing where, but objects, so you'd be fine. So for example, if I said the house was demolished, or the house was constructed, so to construct is construire, C-O-N-S-T-R-U-I-R-E, the past is construit, T-R-U-I-T. Demolish is D-E acute, M-O-L-I-R. So the house was demolished. La maison était démolie. D-E acute, M-O-L-I-E. Adding an E because it's a feminine house. Or construite, C-O-N-S-T-R-U-I-T-E, because it's a feminine house. Now that's fine with objects then. Yeah, the house will be constructed. The house had been constructed. We will see was, you know, the chateau, the castle was destroyed. Le château était détruit. D-E acute T-R-U-R-T. D-E acute T-R-U-I-T. In books we might see le château fut détruit, which is the passé simple, yeah, which is basically the literary tense. I shall pop a link to that underneath. But the point is, that's objects. For people, although you can sometimes use that method, here's where we start working out which one we use. It isn't always the go-to. So, for example, if I said I was seen, so seen, as we've talked about, let's find the past, j'ai vu. You wouldn't say I was seen, j'étais vu. It's not really the best French. You'd say one saw me. And for one, you can use this on, which is this general one. Now, obviously, sometimes you guys know that that is going to be the word for we. So, for example, we ate, nous avons mangé, N-O-U-S-A-V-O-N-S, M-A-N-G-E acute. Or we ate, on a mangé, O-N-A-M-A-N-G-E acute. But the fact is, this on is also like the general one. So, I was seen would be better translated as one saw me. on m'a vu. O-N-M'-A-V-U. Or they saw me, ils m'ont vu. I-L-S-M'-O-N-T vu, V-U. Or with an E if it was a lady that had been seen. So that is a common method as well. I was elected. So if we go to some of the verbs that I wanted to look at, so I was elected, E acute L-U, or with an E for a feminine, instead of saying j'étais élu, which can be used in this one because it's kind of like a state rather than just an action. You can use that one. You will often say on m'a élu. Yeah, one elected me. Or I got elected. So let's talk about some of the other methods that we can use with the passive then. So if we're still talking about objects, let's say objects, not people, are going to be divided between the was and then the past word as an adjective method that we started talking about. And the second method for objects is to use a reflexive of whichever verb is going on. So for example, if I said Coca-Cola was sold in France in the 60s, whatever, le coca, yes, I can say était vendu. I'm going to use the method I first started talking about, E acute T-A-I-T, vendu, V-E-N-D-U. Or I can say Coca-Cola was selling itself, S-E-V-E-N-D-A-I-T. Now you're going to be like, Luke, that sounds a little bit prostitution-y, but I'm saying that's how you would do it. So if I said English is spoken in whatever, Australia, so that method would be l'anglais est parlé, same as I've talked about at the beginning. But the other method, because English is not a person, would be English speaks itself. So let's just spend a couple of minutes just doing some examples in English of the weird sentences you're going to have to come up with to use this second method. So French will be spoken, French will speak itself. So you're going to use the same tense that your verb to be was in, but then you're going to get rid of the verb to be, you're just going to use the verb you're talking about and make it reflexive. So French will be spoken, French will speak itself. Le français sera parlé, S-E-R-A-P-A-R-L-E acute, or French will be spoken on the holiday, le français se parlera, S-E-P-A-R-L-E-R-A. French was spoken in the Russian court or something, you know, le français était parlé, or a little bit better, le français se parlait. Yeah, so S-E-P-A-R-L-A-I-T. So you would go to the tense that your verb to be was in English, but then you'd make that reflexive. There are plenty of French expressions which use this. That is not done in France. Ça se fait pas, or ça se fait. Yeah, S-E-F-A-I-T. The guys over there are a couple. How do you know? You can see. Ça se voit. That sees itself. How do you eat it? It is eaten with a fork. C'est mangé avec une fourchette, or ça se mange. That eats itself. Okay? How do you write it? That is written, or that writes itself. Ça s'écrit. C with a cedilla A, S apostrophe E acute C-R-I-T. Ça s'écrit comment? How? So in other words, the two methods for objects are either the was and then the adjective which is going to be formed from a past participle, or the method using the reflexives, and you're going to see a lot of those, okay? So on to people. Now I've done a video on this other method with people, and I will link that underneath as well, so do please read in the description. But one of the very common methods with people and passives, so that means, think about it, that means that the verb which is taking place is not a verb that you are doing. So I got arrested, I didn't do the arresting. I got he got killed, he didn't do the killing. All right. I was had, as in they charged me too much. I didn't do the having. So the method that you are going to use for this is to use the reflexive form of faire, se faire. So before you go any further, if you're not comfortable popping verbs in the past with the reflexive, can you please watch the video on reflexive verbs in the past that I refer to as the poetry past, or if you are in possession of the grammar podcasts,